Tires, start your engines!
This is MRN Motorsports Monday, presented by Outback Steakhouse. One full hour of news, interviews, and opinion about the past weekend's racing action. Brought to you by Hercules Tires.
Pace car is on.
Now here are your hosts, Woody Kane and Joey Meyer.
Green flag, green flag.
Cousin Carl wins again on the concrete at Bristol. And finally, Joey, finally, an Xfinity Series regular beats those evil Cup guys in the Xfinity Series and takes the checkered flag. Young Eric Jones, a young phenom, as you used to say.
Yeah, no, Bristol was wait, what is that? This just in, Joe Gibbs Racing is pretty good.
Especially in that Xfinity Series, but they swept the weekend.
They swept the entire weekend. If there was an event.
And the weekend before that, and the weekend before that.
So what, wait, yep, they're still good.
I think that's probably going to hold up for a while now.
Man, we are fighting to get these guys to get back to them. They're really good. Xfinity Cup, they've got it covered. And it showed their dominance with their qualifying effort in both series, their race in both series. Because if Eric Jones doesn't win, who wins? Kyle Busch.
Kyle Busch, who was right there.
Right. And so
or it could have been Kyle Larson, except for a restart issue.
Exactly right. But the Joe Gibbs dominance continued at Bristol. I thought the track put on an excellent event both days. The weather, again, was fantastic.
Yeah.
Everything that the Chamber of Commerce does for the Bristol area is really good weather-wise.
I was going to say, wait, they ordered the weather? They put in an order for perfect weather?
We always say it's Chamber of Commerce weather, right?
Okay, well, they must have called up the weather people and said, hey, we need some good stuff this weekend.
We're going to talk about it a little bit later on, catch us on an off track, because I got something the Chamber of Commerce needs to work on.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, we call that a tease in the industry.
There you go. Very nice. Well played. Joey's going to partner with the Chamber of Commerce in many areas here and see what we can get done.
So several years ago, they ground the high groove to take it away.
Right.
And
how'd that work out?
Yeah, and all it did was force everybody up there
because
it actually has more grip. So we see the track take an amazing amount of rubber where the cars tend to run all the way up top. Produce speeds, qualifying speeds on the bottom are a little bit faster for 1 or 2 laps, but we're able to run more consistent lap times up top once the track takes rubber, and it does. We didn't see a lot of rubber happening on Saturday with the cooler temperatures, not until like the last 15 minutes of practice, and then cars started running up top and getting more race-type practice in. But the weekend was good. I don't know why nobody's there. They missed a good event.
Well, the last 2 spring races at Bristol have been rain events, when that may have scared a couple of people away. But at any rate, a lot of people in that arena are kind of swallowed up. That place has a ton of seats. I think I saw a tweet yesterday that someone said that crowd would have been sellouts at like 6 tracks or 7 tracks around the circuit this year.
Little perception issues because the track does hold over 160,000 people. What we had yesterday, it was in the 70,000 range, not quite half. But again, we're talking places like Phoenix that sell out at 55, 58,000. We cheer those guys on when they sell it out, but we put 70,000 people in Bristol, and everybody's really upset. The 70,000 would have filled Homestead, which is our finale down in South Florida. And again, we're upset because Bristol, they carried the record for a number of years for the number of sellouts.
Yeah, they did.
And that football game that they're going to have there has been sold out as well. So the stadium will hold those number of people. We just need to get them back to the stadium for the race traffic. And right now, SMI is doing exactly what they can. Stay with us for On Track, and I'll tell you what they're doing.
Another tease. You got a double tease in the opening segment. This just in, another one? All right. That's fantastic. Can I get any messages in here as well, or does that only go to you?
You just have headsets on.
Okay.
You don't have them.
All right.
You're not connected.
A couple things that jumped out at me. One, even though Carl Edwards led 276 laps, all 3 of his teammates on Sunday had issues. They had some tire issues. I think they said one was a bead. A couple of the guys found the wall. Kyle Busch, he's going to have nightmares about Bristol.
But he still wins. He
does. Yes, he does.
But
why Carl Edwards was he able to get through him and the other guys had issues?
It's interesting. It's interesting. At the 8th race of the year, I've said this now for a good 4 or 5 weeks. It's a 4-car team at Joe Gibbs Racing. But whenever you see the 3, the 20, the 18, and the 11 run good, the 19 seems to be a little off. And then whenever the 19 runs really good, the other 3 seem to be a little off. And this weekend was a good example of that. The 19 ran good all weekend, had 0 issues, whether it was on pit road or either tire issues on the track, and the other 3 did. So, it's, again,
is that a feel thing in terms of how they're setting the car up? Carl likes something different than the other 3?
Well, it's all about chemistry, obviously, with Carl and his new crew chief. They're working on chemistry, and it's how aggressive these other guys want to be. Carl wasn't as aggressive. The other 3 they got some wins, so they can be a little more aggressive in their setups to try to go for the wins where the loss isn't as great. Whereas if the 19 loses, he hasn't gained the win that they're looking for.
All right. Speaking of wins, let's hear what Carl Edwards had to say about going to victory lane at Bristol.
Well, it started on Friday with qualifying. We've got really fast race cars. I think that's pretty obvious, with how the cars qualify. These Toyotas are spectacular. And then towards the end, you get all those restarts, and you just got to be able to perform on those. And that's honestly pretty tough for me. Can't believe we won the race. I mean, for everybody that put this thing together, Comcast and Aris and Toyota and all the folks, and not to mention my pit crew. Last week, it was heartbreaking what happened, and they bounced back like nothing. So changes the season in a huge way. And I mean, now we just go out and have some fun and try all the things we want to try. I mean, we're in the show, and that's the first mission. So great work by Dave Rogers and everybody at JGR.
Interesting, Carl Edwards goes to do his traditional backflip after a win, but he's on such a hill. I kept waiting for him to back all the way down the hill and tumble into a heap.
Joe Gibbs has to cringe when he does that.
I know. I'm thinking the same thing.
He has to cringe. But interesting, one of the reasons with the complaints about Bristol and the High Line is it creates a parade-type situation where all the cars just get lined up against the wall and nobody can pass. We saw 2 very good cars early on. Dale Jr. at lap 1 had a mechanical issue, fell back 2 laps down, drove back to second. Brad Keselowski sped on pit road. Why, I don't know, because we give him speed numbers and he doesn't listen to them.
Wow,
really? He was able to get back to third before he had a valve stem issue on his tire, which is not Goodyear related.
Right.
But so two good cars were able to work their way all the way from the back to the front throughout different portions of the race. So the track provides really good racing, specifically for cars that can pass, can do it.
Absolutely, they can. One guy who had a great day yesterday, and he had an emotional interview after, Matt DiBenedetto with BK Racing. Let's hear what he had to say.
I'm just so thankful to have all the seat time I've had. I've had, like I said earlier, my career's been really up and down. I've had had to restart many times. Just kind of hung in there and dug deep, and for me to get a chance to race in the Sprint Cup Series, it's a dream come true. And then for us to have a run like this is a win. I was very emotional, but our team, they did such a good job. I'm just lucky. They have worked really hard in the off season. They did a great job. We bought some newer race cars, hired some great folks. This is a team effort. I can't take all the credit for this because without a great team, great attitude by everybody, a great race car, then I can't do anything. So I just was holding the steering wheel and trying to keep clean and do the best job I can, and these guys deserve it.
Great run for Matt DiBenedetto, finishing 6th up in the top 10 there for BK Racing. And I saw that they've got a new sponsor coming for Richmond now, so things are falling into place for them just like you might hope for. And Matt DiBenedetto is going to be a guest, I just learned, on NASCAR Live, just in.
See?
He's going to be on NASCAR Live Tuesday at 7 Eastern Time.
It's fantastic to see the performance of teams that have been down for a number of races this year pick up and elevate at a track that people always talk about being a driver's track. We don't have to worry about aero. We don't have to worry about engines being down on horsepower if any of those are issues with your team. It's simply a driver's track. So to see the Matt DiBenedettos, which I'm really proud of myself that you can say that correctly.
There you go.
There are a lot of vowels in that name, so I'm really happy with that. But the Kevin Harvicks, they were not performing as good. But the DiBenedettos, you've got the Chase Elliott's, we've got Clint Boyer. Those guys have all elevated there at Bristol to show that they still have a chance to perform well. And it was really cool to see the different people being able to stay up front. And at the end of the race, you're looking at, again, Dale Jr. being down 2 laps and there he finishes second. So it was a very, very intriguing race on Sunday.
Absolutely, it was. And one guy not happy, that was Kyle Busch. Here's what he had to say after the race.
This track sucked for me ever since the grind here, so I'm about sick and tired of coming here because it sucks to race. But it's on the schedule, so we got to come here.
Wow!
If we could only get him to open up.
It wasn't so long ago they were saying he needs to talk to people after the race. Well, he did.
Awesome. That's perfect. Exactly right. The track there's not one person that will tell you since they ground the high lane that they enjoy the style of racing that it provides. It's getting better. We're figuring it out a little bit better, but we don't like being slammed against the wall having to run that high line. In practice, for the first 80 seconds or 80% of practice, we ran the bottom, and we were happier down there being able to move around. But running that high line just really limits your abilities.
Absolutely, it was. We mentioned the Xfinity Series. Eric Jones finally gets an Xfinity Series regular into victory lane. We'll head to break now with his comments about that. He also won the $100,000 Dash for Cash bonus. But first, we need to remind you that since Kevin Harvick got a top 10 finish, don't forget to race into Outback Steakhouse today for a free Bloomin' Onion, because Kevin Harvick finished in the top 10. Don't forget now, Outback Steakhouse done right. They've also got the lunch menu, the specials there, $6.99 combos starting at $6.99, and your favorite,
the Joey menu.
It's mostly for kids, but they let Joey order off of it as well. All right, here is Eric Jones. We'll come back with Trevor Bayne on the other side, who had his first top 5 since he won the Daytona 500 back in 2011.
It was wild, really. With 20 to go, I thought, we're going to finish 3rd or 4th, and that's an okay day for us. And was kind of disappointed we didn't have a shot to run at the 42 and the 18, and then the caution came out, and I was like, well, it's kind of a whole new ball game now, and just got a really good restart. And everything kind of played out right on the restart. The 18 didn't get a great restart. We were able to get to the bottom. And then the 42, I thought he'd run right against the wall, and he kind of left the top open for me. And I just went to the top and got a good run, got next to him, and he tried hard to keep us behind him, but we got out front and just held it up there, and just I can't think of a better feeling coming off of turn 4 and coming to the checkered.
This is MRN Motorsports Monday.
The Toyota Racing Team wants to take a quick moment to congratulate Kyle Busch on his 2015 NASCAR Sprint Cup Series championship that he won in the Camry. Don't worry, this will be as fast as Kyle in his Camry. How fast is Kyle? So fast he's won a ton of races across all NASCAR series. Plus, he's won 133 of Toyota's 332 NASCAR victories. He's even won 38 NASCAR Camping World Truck Series races in the Tundra. And now here he is, wearing the 2015 NASCAR Sprint Cup Series championship crown. So yeah, Kyle is really fast. We're proud of him and all the folks at Joe Gibbs Racing, whose teamwork made this win possible. Keep those checkered flags waving and take another victory lap in your Camry, Kyle. Good luck to all our drivers in the 2016 season. Head over to ToyotaRacing.com to find more info about the Toyota Racing Team and Kyle's journey to victory. Better get there fast before Kyle wins another race. Let's go NASCAR. Toyota, let's go places. NASCAR is a registered trademark of the National Association for Stock Car Auto Racing, Inc.
Ever wish your kid came with an instruction manual? I'm behavioral therapist James Lehman, and I'll show you how to change your child's behavior now with the Total Transformation, the program that helps stop defiance, backtalking, lying, acting out in school, even problems with ADD and ADHD. There's no screaming, no fighting, no frustration. Your child will listen to you again. I guarantee it.
Change your child's behavior now with the Total Transformation. Call now. 1-800-406-2945. 1-800-406-2945.
I'm Ty Dillon, and you're listening to MRN Motorsports Monday with Joey Meyer and Woody Kane.
There you go. Back on Motorsports Monday. A good day by a lot of guys we haven't seen up front in a while. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in our on-track, off-track segment coming up. But Trevor Bayne's going to join us here in just a minute. And at one point late in that race, they had all 3 of the Roush Fenway cars running 7th, 8th, and 9th. They didn't finish there, but they were running very well.
You know what that means?
What's that?
They listen to our show.
What?
We called them out several weeks ago, did we not?
Right. Yeah,
See, we called them out. We demanded.
I forgot.
We said, pick up, do better. And what they do?
They said, this just in.
That's exactly right.
And they did.
Yeah, good kudos to those guys. It's tough to be a race team. One of the biggest Ford teams there is out there with four scheduled teams under their racing roof, you will say. Penske's a dominant team, but we only have 2 teams. Wood Brothers is dominant with 1 team. They're the largest Ford team that we have with Ford, with 4 teams in their stables, as Eli Gold says so many years, their stables, all the
they
horsepower.
Feed them hay and all that.
Exactly right. So it's good to see those guys get back on track and see the strength that we get accustomed to at the Blue Oval over there at Roush Fenway.
One thing I wanted to ask you about, I mentioned it in the beginning. I had a second point I wanted to get to about, you mentioned the grind up at the top and how the line has moved. I heard Dale Earnhardt Jr. mention over the weekend that maybe if they put some sealer down on the bottom, it might help some guys go down there and stick a little bit better and get back to some old school, if you will, racing like they used to have at Bristol.
It's a great idea. The issue that you're going to have is a balance from speed from top to bottom. All you're looking for is a little bit more speed on the bottom. How do you engineer that into a track that we've ground the top of to give the top to take away from it that much, right?
Wait. Say that again now.
Okay, so we tried to fix the bottom groove and make it better by taking away the top, right? That's what the plan was.
And that didn't work.
It didn't work. It actually forced it even higher. Well, now if we try to make the bottom groove better, we might accelerate the bottom groove and take away the rest of the track.
Right.
So the balance
unintended consequences.
Exactly right. If we could figure out a way to make both grooves equal, that would be fantastic. But we've seen the engineers not do a very good job of being able to make both grooves better in their direction. They wanted to take away the top to make the bottom groove better. It didn't work.
It didn't happen.
It actually made the top groove better, which was, again, like you said, unintended consequences. So anytime we try to fix something, there's always another result that we don't know about until it's too late. So I think right now, again, the tire, the construction of the cars and the low downforce, everything worked out to where we saw, again, Dale Jr. started 40th, 2 laps down. At lap 2, Dale Jr. is 40th, 2 laps down.
Yeah.
He got back to second.
He did.
Not through hocus pocus or chicanery, magic. He worked his way all day long.
Wait, it wasn't magic?
He had to pass people.
Yes, he did.
Brad Keselowski at lap 74 decided he was going to go too fast on pit road at the first pit stop. Started in the very back, worked his way back up front, and was able to pass cars. So there's a way to pass cars. Kyle Busch's frustration is definitely felt by a lot of the drivers because you don't feel like you want to race on a track that's limited up high. It's tough to get by lap cars at Bristol, but that's what racing's about.
Speaking of Dale Earnhardt Jr., you mentioned him and his comments racing all the way back to second. We heard from him after the race as well on how he was able to do just that.
We struggled all day with the balance on the car. 19 was real good. I never really raced with him much, but he took off at the end. We had enough to hold off those guys, but the 41 was a little better than us. So I was just kind of in the way there at the end, but we had about a 10th place car today. We worked hard, my guys want me to work hard. They're working hard. Greg worked hard to get in the laps back for me. Early in the race, we had a dead battery, cost us a couple laps. So just proud, it's a great team to be working with, man. I get along with all these guys, and they believe in me, and it makes a difference when you're out there working, when you know those guys are believing in you. You want to show them what you can do, so it's fun.
Remember, just a week or so ago, Junior made some offhand comments about he and Greg Ives needed
a banana mayonnaise sandwich.
No, not that.
The other comments.
He made some comments about he and Greg Ives needed to communicate a little better, and at that time he said it's on me to make it clear to him exactly what I need and how. And everybody went, oh, they're having issues, they're not doing well, and here another big finish, another good finish for those guys. I think they're doing okay.
Greg's done a good job of stepping in a position that was relatively new for him, that position. He's been an engineer, and now he's been a crew chief with the most popular driver of the sport. So everything and anything he does is under a Hubble telescope of magnification.
Yeah.
So anything that seems normal to any other team, there's always communication. What Carl Edwards has going on with his crew chief is about getting communication better. Trevor Bayne, all these guys. Scott Graves working with Daniel Suarez. He's coming off a championship Xfinity with Chris Buescher last year.
And he'll be on a little bit later, by the way.
That's
Scott
a tease.
Graves will.
Another
there you
tease.
go. How about that? Pretty slick.
So Scott Graves had to learn a new language because he went from a Southern guy with Chris Buescher
from Texas
to a Mexican descent with Daniel Suarez. So it was a big change for him. Yeah. So it's all about communication. But whatever Dale Jr. and Greg Ives deals with it's been magnified. The interesting thing about Dale Jr., and he said he had a dead battery. And what it ended up being is that new EFI system, which allows the car to accept that if you have too much brake pressure for a given throttle setting, it thinks you have a stuck throttle,
right,
and it shuts the car down.
A safety issue.
It's a safety thing, and it's a safety device, and that's what Dale Jr. ended up experiencing when he had his shutdown at lap 1 as they were coming to the green. As he was warming his tires up, he had too much brake pressure for the amount of gas for a restart, and boom, the car shut off.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, we want to thank one of our viewers, Veronica, who was an honorary pit reporter for Motor Racing Network at Michigan a couple years ago. She got the hat here for us, painted it up. You see the MRN, the Voice of NASCAR logo. So thanks, Veronica, for sending us that hat. You can get involved in the program as well. Tweet us at MRN Radio, or mine is at WY Kane. His is at 2 Spotter. Use that hashtag AskMRN so we can find your question along the way as we continue talking about the racing at Bristol and going to another short track this coming weekend at Richmond.
Yeah, Richmond's a very exciting race, completely unlike Bristol with the high banks. It's more of your local short track action, three-quarter mile lower bank track. Side by side, 2, 3, 4 wide, available down the front stretch. Completely different than Bristol. Bristol's a lot of beating and banging just to pass people. If you're beating and banging at Richmond, you're going to upset people. That's what's interesting about Bristol is that you can beat and bang the amount to get by somebody, and they're like, okay, that was accepted. They don't get as upset until the end of the race. And then if you start beating and banging them and getting them out of this spot that you're going to try to take from him, then they seem to get upset. But
you think we used to see more of that when they raced in the lower groove versus the higher groove?
Well, that was the only way you could get by somebody.
Yeah.
That's the train we talk about so many times, riding around the bottom. The only way you could get by was to bump that guy out of the way. And I was driving in with my son Tyler, who's over in the production room watching our show, and I was explaining, why it's acceptable to do the old bump and run. And if you can
Did you show him while you were on the roads and bump somebody?
Well, no. I don't like to scratch my car up.
Well, that one lady got angry at you making a U-turn
really
that one day.
She was really mad.
I was there.
But the difference is if you can bump somebody out of the way and you're not faster than them, well, then they get right back to you and give it back.
Yeah.
But if you can bump them out of the way and then carry on and move away, they never have a chance. They end up cooling down, and by that time, the guy behind them is getting ready to bump them out of the way again.
It's kind of an art form.
Exactly right. It is, because you can definitely do it wrong, as we saw a couple of cars spin out and crash, or we saw a lot of cars getting bumped out of the way yesterday and being passed with very little effort or very little damage that the drivers accept. They just get it. If they're holding up a line, the 10 car did it early. She stayed out on one of the pit sequences. The 1 car, if they put themselves in position to where they understand they're in a position, if they're running in the top 5, that they may not be good enough to be there, they're going to do everything they can, their power, rightfully so, to hold on to that position. But if a car behind them can get to them enough times and you feel it beating and banging, pretty soon you understand, okay, I'm getting ready to be moved, and you accept it.
Speaking of guys staying out, how about what Landon Castle did? He had the Snap Fitness guys on the car. I talked to him the week before. He said they were looking for a race, and I said, go to Bristol because that's where you want to be. And then he puts them up front, gets all kinds of love, had some pit stop issues late, and then got shuffled back a little bit. But my goodness, what a strong run for that team.
Both front row cars ran in the top 15 most of the afternoon. They both got in the top 21, 20, and 21st from front row. Lead lap finishes. That's what's more impressive, how they were able to compete at a high enough level to stay on the lead lap when at times the leader was, he was a straightaway ahead of everybody. So that means the guys that were running 20th, their leaders are right behind them. So those guys, kudos. Landon Castle did not finish where he should have, and he blamed himself on some restarts there at the end, getting stuck on the wrong lane. But him and Chris Buescher, every time you looked up and we were going to try to pass somebody, it was a 34 and a 38 from Front Row Motorsports. So kudos to those guys.
Yeah.
They did a really, really good job.
Right. And speaking of Fords, we got a little notice from Dan Zacharias, who's the Ford PR rep. Did you know, Joey, that today is National Wear Your Pajamas to Work Day?
You can't see, but from the waist down, I'm in my pajamas.
Are they footy pajamas?
Well, I'm actually wearing my birthday suit.
Okay. I'm telling Annie about this. I'm telling on you.
Birthday suit.
All right, so it is National Wear Your Pajamas to Work Day, and it's in support of a charity. Now, Chris Buescher and the guys over at Front Row Motorsports, along with their Roush Fenway Racing trained pit crew, are supporting this 100%. They actually practice pit stops in their pajamas. We'll take a quick timeout, but take a look at this on the way out.
This is a very fun group, so when I heard about this cause for Casey Cares, I knew which one to pick. I knew it was close to my heart and to theirs. That's why we did this. Pajamas rule. We wanted to help out.
MRN Motorsports Monday.
In the Outback, we think the best part about racing is the noise, the engine, the pits, and a Kevin Harvick top 10 finish. Especially a Kevin Harvick top 10 finish. That's because if Kevin Happy Harvick, driver of the number 4 Chevrolet, places in the top 10 in today's race, there's free bloomin' onions this Monday. So you'll have a happy bloomin' Monday. Only at Outback Steakhouse. Valid with any purchase. One per table. Participation may vary. Registered trademarks used with permission.
Ready to take the training wheels off your race scanner? Go to fanvision.com and upgrade your experience with FanVision. Not only will you be able to hear the race,
Dale Earnhardt Jr. gets a good run, drafting help from Kyle Busch and Kevin Harvick. Jr. again pulls up alongside for the race lead.
you'll see every moment through live video, instant replays, live stats, and more.
Hi, I'm Jamie McMurray, driver of the #1 Cessna Chevrolet, and I never go to the track without my FanVision. So go to fanvision.com to rent or buy yours today.
Business is a lot like racing. It takes a strong team of pros to succeed. That's why Freightliner Trucks created TeamRunSmart.com, a free online community that connects owner-operators with the trucking industry's A-team. The Team Run Smart pros and coaches help maximize your profitability with real-world advice on everything from fuel-efficient specking to healthy eating to filing taxes. Sign up today to earn rewards and connect with fellow truckers at TeamRunSmart.com.
Hi, I'm Regan Smith. Now back to Joey Meyer and Woody Kane on Motorsports Monday. Is that Joey Meyer, Brad Spotter?
that.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to have to give him a hard time. Huh. How'd he get his own radio show? Wow.
Wow. Has he given you a hard time in person yet about
Yes,
this?
he actually has.
Great.
He asked me, he said, hey, how long's that radio show going to be on? I said, well, they keep asking me to come back.
There you go.
So until they find somebody with more hair.
Well, then we're both out. That's not going to happen. Why don't we talk a little racing? Let's go to the guest line now and welcome on the crew chief for Daniel Suarez over at Joe Gibbs Racing, Scott Graves. They got to go through the first Dash for Cash segment of the season at Bristol, also the heats that preceded that. Scott, welcome to the program, man. It was a crazy weekend for you guys.
Thanks. Yeah, it was. Good weekend, but it was had a little more excitement to it for sure.
You know, last year you come off 2015 with Chris Buescher as your driver, a very southern draw in Texas, before we even talk about Bristol. But when you go over to the Joe Gibbs Racing Camp and you're going to be paired up with Daniel Suarez, I have to ask, we've had him on the show a couple of times, was there any concerted effort on a communication trying to rebuild a relationship just verbally, being able to listen differently from Chris Buescher to Daniel Suarez?
Sure. I had to, I listened to some radio conversation from Daniel from last year and just tried to get an idea of what it was going to be like. Obviously, we worked real hard on making sure that the radios, everything's working really well in the cars, so that everything's nice and clear, and that we can avoid any issues. And so far, that's worked out pretty well for us.
Give us an idea of how the heats went for you guys at Bristol, because this was something new. You qualify, then the odd number qualifying cars go in one heat, the even number cars go in the other. You guys were eligible for the Dash for Cash money, but what was your thought going into that, and did it play out the way you expected it might?
Yeah, we obviously it was really important to qualify well so that we got ourselves in a good position, and then everyone was interested to see how the heats would shake out and who you'd be racing against for the Dash for Cash to be able to get into it, to be eligible. For Bristol, I think it played out kind of like what we thought. Everyone was looking at what was going to happen there, if there was going to be a lot of passing, or how it would work out. But I think it worked out pretty close. Worked out well for us. Obviously, made our way in, and we were able to race for it in the main race.
You know, one of the challenges you guys face when you show up to any track is you're usually one of the first series on the track. And Bristol's an extreme because the entire practice session, we're running around the bottom. You throw a little K&N practice in there on Friday night. But then realistically, you don't get an opportunity to run in a rubbered up track until later on in the afternoon when the race starts. Is there anything you plan on doing differently, or is it just relying on oats, or how's that work for you?
Yeah, it was a little bit more of a challenge. It seemed like this year even that even with the cup practice that was before us, they weren't really running up high yet. So we knew it was going to change a little bit, and we knew in the race that's where you're going to end up being. So we kind of went off, we got as much of a feel for it as we could in practice, and then went off notes as far as what we thought it would do when people were going to move up. But it was a little different. We knew for sure we'd be up there in the race.
Give us an idea now, after you've gone through the heat situation, you're going to be facing that 3 more times this year. Is there anything you might try differently without giving away trade secrets? Is there anything that surprised you about it?
No, I think, Bristol was kind of like what we expected. It's been harder to pass there recently, so we knew that qualifying was going to be a key there. Richmond could be a little bit different. It's a track that you do a 50-lap heat race there, and 50 laps in Richmond is a lot of laps on tires. And you're going to see some cars that might not be as good on a short run, but could be really good on a long run. So it's going to be a little more of a challenge finding that balance there. I could see it playing out a little bit differently at Richmond.
So you started 8th for a main. We go run 200 laps. You end up finishing 6th. What exactly did you need just a little bit more of to be able to go up there and contend with your teammates for the win?
We needed the outside lane on a restart, the last one for sure. I mean, obviously it went in our favor. I think the second restart before the end, and we were 4th on that restart, and worked out in our favor. That put us in the spot to win the Dash for Cash there, and then that last caution came out at the end, and unfortunately we were in 3rd at that point, which it's kind of odd to say. Unfortunately, you're in 3rd, but we knew we wanted to be on the outside lane, and just on the bottom there for that last restart, just didn't work out for us the way we needed.
Chatting with Scott Graves, the crew chief for Daniel Suarez in the Juniper Camry in the Xfinity Series at Joe Gibbs Racing. Tell us a little bit about what you think about Daniel Suarez after working with him for the first few races of the season now, because everybody seems to be really high on this guy, thinking he's going to be the next breakout star.
Yeah, he's. You look at for the level of experience and how long he's been driving this style of car, I've been really impressed. I mean, it's obviously this year we've gotten off to a really good start and had some good races, and we're half a lap from winning at Fontana and finished second at Vegas, just behind Kyle there. So obviously I feel like we're close. We're knocking on the door. Just gotta work on a few little things and have some things go our way, and I think you can see Daniel get his first win here sometime soon. So I've been really impressed with him. I've been impressed since watching him last year, and just doing my best to help him get that first win, so we can help him be as good as he needs to be here.
He's running his 3rd year in the series, but realistically only his 2nd full-time year, coming off last year being his rookie season. Where is he growing the most at? Short tracks, intermediates? Is there any one area that, you're really surprised when you go to a track and you're amazed at the level of experience that he's showing for only being in the series for one full-time year?
Yeah, I look at it as being a little bit everywhere. I think he's just, the understanding of the racing, what a whole race takes, how to be there at the end. I go back to even Daytona this year where, last year I think he had been in some incidents at the speedway races, and we really worked on, look, this year at Daytona the goal is going to be to finish. We got to work on getting through the whole race without having any issues, and he did a great job of it. Finished there, and car was cleaning up. All we really had to do was wipe it off, and we're ready to go to Talladega with it. So did a really nice job, and I think you take that and he's applied it to all the other tracks we've been to as well. He understands the big picture, and I think he continues to grow there.
I mean, that's got to be a real relief from a crew chief's perspective to have a young guy especially, who understands that if you can work on making your cars better instead of having to rebuild them all the time, your learning curve is going to be that much more accelerated, right?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely gives us more of an opportunity, like you said, to keep working on the cars and develop, and keeps everybody from getting behind in the shop for sure.
It's 2016, and one of the things that everybody's involved with at the racetrack and away from the racetrack is social media. We try every time when we get a guest on to find their Twitter handle, and I don't see one for old Scott Graves. How come that is?
There's one there. I just probably don't use it a whole lot, but I do have one.
Okay.
Just remember the golden rule: only happy thoughts on Twitter, right?
That's right.
Give us an idea. You touched on it a little bit earlier about Richmond. Your thoughts going into that racetrack. It's still a short track, but obviously a lot different than Bristol. What are you guys looking for there? Because on the Cup side, at least, we've gone to all-day races there now. So what are you guys thinking about heading up to Richmond?
Yeah, I guess a little of the same. It's going to be a day race for us, and the challenge again there is it's always trying to find the balance between turning the middle and keeping the drive off, especially later into a run. So definitely got that in our mind. Tire fall off is big there, so it's short run car is good, but you also have to have a car that's gonna hang on and be there in a longer run. So it's a good fun short track to race at. Track position is big. You got to run a perfect race. Can't have mistakes on pit road or on the track. So it's a challenge, but a lot of fun to race there for sure.
One more thing I wanted to ask you, Scott, before we let you go is we ask all the guys involved in the Xfinity Series, and unanimously the drivers have said, yep, bring the Cup guys on. We want to race against them. When you've got a young guy like Daniel, I'm sure he's eager to race against the Cup caliber talent as well. Do you see it as a situation where they're stealing your thunder, or are you in the bring them on camp?
I'm in the camp of bring them on, because it's we're trying to develop the talent for the future in the next the next generation. And you look at it, and they're going to go to the Cup Series. They're going to have to compete against those guys. So it's a great chance for them to learn against some of the best drivers. And like I say, it's a good opportunity for them. I think they can learn a lot, and it keeps them hungry. I guess it sets the bar for them as far as where they need to be on performance. And I know Daniel feels the same way after talking to him. He's he wants to beat Kyle. To be able to race him and learn from him, and he wants to be able to go out there and beat him. So it's he's definitely looking at it from the same perspective.
There you go, Joey. It's still unanimous.
Exactly right, 100%. Thanks, man. Appreciate you. I think it's a breakout star. I see qualifying efforts. It was your worst effort at Bristol. It's pretty impressive. First, seconds, and thirds up to that point. In your opinion, with the little tweak, what do you need to really finish this off and bring the victories back home for Daniel Suarez?
Really, it's just probably a little bit on the car side for us, getting balance a little bit closer where he needs it, and then just execution in the race. Just like I say, no mistakes, and just all the little details. It's things that we're getting closer on every week, and a little bit more, and we'll get there.
There you go. That's Scott Graves, the crew chief for Daniel Suarez, the number 19 Juniper Camry for Joe Gibbs Racing. They finished 6th at Bristol. They lead the standings by 6 over Eric Jones, but the win means Eric Jones, for chase ranking purposes, would be one spot ahead of him, but still right there in the thick of it with a lot of racing yet to go. Scott, congratulations on a strong start to the season, and appreciate your time.
Sure. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, guys.
There you go. It really is amazing what they've done in particular, and what the Gibbs organization at the Xfinity level has done in particular as well.
Moments away. I will not be surprised if one week, when everybody tunes back in, all 2 million of our listeners check in, and they say,
"Oh, we added 3 then, right?"
Exactly right. Daniel Suarez won Richmond. It's that close.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of that little piece being put together, and Daniel and the Joe Gibbs Racing team with Scott being able to get that car to victory lane. Not qualifying out of the top 3 except for one time at Bristol. Not finishing out of the top 8 except for Texas when they finished 16th. I believe they had an issue on pit road or a penalty. So it's an amazing performance by them guys all year long. And the hardest victory to get is that first one.
Yeah.
But once they get the first one and they can learn what that feels like and the momentum that it carries over, he's going to have multiple victories at the end.
As we mentioned, Daniel Suarez leads the point standings by 6 over Eric Jones, by 8 over Justin Allgaier right now. There you get a look at it. But with the win, Eric Jones, for chase purposes, would be 1 ahead. Still early in the season, so still very close. Only 10 points separating the top 4 guys. We had Elliott Sadler on the show last week. Brandon Jones continues to have a strong season. Ty Dillon and Brendan Gaughan, the teammates there. And Brennan Poole up in the 8th spot there, running well so far in the season as well.
All 3 of those RCR teammates, 6th, 7th, and 8th, right there in the thick of things. Again, a victory guarantees their way in, but solidly in the top 10 in points, which will allow them to advance if the victories aren't there. It's one of the arguments about the chase system in the Xfinity Series is that when the Cup guys win a race, it takes away that win opportunity for the lower point guys that are outside the 12th in points up, for the chase.
Yeah.
It takes those opportunities away. So that's the only argument that even has any feet to it, because everybody.
And that's when you accidentally screwed up and agreed with me last week.
I did agree with you. Well, and we've had the agreement here with everybody that's been in the Xfinity Series or involved with the Xfinity Series, they are in the 100% agreement as well. We like racing against Cup guys.
It is unanimous as well. As we go to break here, we've got on track, off track on the other side, and you won't want to miss what Joey's going to tell you about that. But as we go to break, let's hear what Eric Jones thought after finally getting an Xfinity regular into victory lane this year.
Yeah, it feels great, man. To be the first Xfinity regular to win this year is a big accomplishment for all of us. And we got such a young team, from really my crew chief, Chris Gabehart, it's his first year being a crew chief, to our 2 engineers, first-year engineers. Just couldn't be happier for those guys. I know they want it just as bad as me, and it's so cool to get them into victory lane as well. And it's setting our goals pretty high for the rest of the season doing this, but I think we can maintain them and win a few more.
This is MRN Motorsports Monday.
Does your heart race for great taste? For a limited time, get 20% off Creekstone Farms premium St. Louis style all natural Duroc pork ribs. Choose between 4 or 8 fall off the bone rack of ribs and get up to $30 in savings. Just place your order at creekstonefarms.com before April 30th using the promo code MRN20RIBS. That's MRN20RIBS. Enjoy the juiciest premium quality beef and pork products. Visit creekstonefarms.com today.
In the Outback, we think the best part about racing is the noise, the engine, the pits, and a Kevin Harvick top 10 finish. Especially a Kevin Harvick top 10 finish. That's because if Kevin Happy Harvick, driver of the number 4 Chevrolet, places in the top 10 in today's race, there's free bloomin' onions this Monday. So you'll have a happy bloomin' Monday. Only at Outback Steakhouse. Valid with any purchase. 1 per table. Participation may vary. Registered trademarks used with permission.
Whatever you drive, wherever you go, Hercules Tires will get you there, whether you're running on dirt or running a job. Our dependable, high-quality tires are the perfect fit for your needs. For unmatched value, selection, and warranty with industry-leading road hazard protection, there's only one choice: Hercules Tires. To learn more, visit HerculesTire.com or call 800-677-9535. Hercules Tires, ride on our strength.
Hey, I'm Eric Almirola. Now back to Joey Meyer and Woody Kane on Motorsports Monday.
Hey, I want to remind you folks, again, the video we showed you a little bit earlier with the crew from Chris Buescher. They're trained over at Roush Fenway. They did the pit stop in their pajamas. That's for ToyotaCare. It's a Baltimore-based nonprofit. They coordinate uplifting activities for critically ill children and their families. The group provides new pairs of pajamas to kids while they're in the hospital or home recovering from medical treatment. There's a hashtag ToyotaCares if you want to check that out and see all the activity going on today, because as Joey told you earlier, he's got the footy pajamas on since it's National Wear Your Pajamas to Work Day. So we got that out of the way.
Yep.
All right.
Very comfortable. Very comfortable.
I'm not even going to pursue that anymore. All right, let's go to On Track, Off Track, where we discuss some things that we think are going right in the world of racing and some things that maybe aren't going quite so well. So, Mr. Meyer, for On Track, what do you got this week?
You know, a couple years ago, Dallas was known. They built a big stadium, had this big TV. It was a big blah, blah,
The football
blah.
stadium.
Absolutely right. We got to hear all about how big their TV was. Speedway, SMI, Speedway Motorsports Incorporated said, we're going to see your TV, and that's going to be a little tiny handheld compared to ours in Charlotte. We built the world's largest TV. Texas, which is their sister track, said everything's bigger in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
So we built a bigger TV. Now they have the world's largest big screen TV at the racetrack, which gives fans both at Charlotte and Texas, which are still monster-sized TVs, great opportunity to see the action all around the track. They continue the trend at Bristol, and we have a football game going on in the infield, so we used to have a scoring pylon in the middle of the track. They had to remove it. They now have the largest center-hung, non-supported TV in the world. It's 700 tons, give or take a couple of tons.
Did you weigh it?
But the information on the Colossus is the 4 screens, gives the fans a great opportunity to see the action, and information is being relayed in different ways now. It's just that the entertainment industry and the technological advancements that SMI are producing are cool. We saw ISC, which is the other company that does tracks, spend $1 gazillion
At
on
$400 million, as a matter of fact. Daytona Rising right there, right?
Exactly right.
New Wi-Fi across, new seating, the whole ball of wax.
Anybody that says, one of the arguments we hear is, oh, NASCAR's old school and they forget us, all the new guys.
Mm-hmm.
These two companies, which are the largest two in the sport, are doing what they feel necessary to try to keep older fans while attracting the new technologically advanced newer fan.
You mentioned when you started at the Texas Stadium where the Dallas Cowboys play that was the kind of thing that kicked it off, and I think that's what fans have come to expect at other venues now, and it's great to see racing get on board with it as well.
Yeah, if my grandfather were to show up at a race, he's not going to get on his Wi-Fi device and get on, but the newer generation is. So you have to give the performance of the older generation still there, but allowing the technology to come into the sport and elevate it to levels that are unseen in any other sport. You can talk about any other sports you want. NASCAR has, not NASCAR company, but the tracks that we go to have the highest level of technology with the size of TVs, the amount of TVs, the ingenuity of getting those Colossus TVs up at Bristol. Just a fantastic energy level from SMI going forward.
All right, my on-track relates to a Twitter question that we've got. Briar Star wants to know, what did you think of the underdogs running up front yesterday? I say it's good for our sport, future of the sport. I agree. If you want to send your question in, just use that hashtag AskMRN so we can find it along the way. Listen to this now. This is just from the Cup race on Sunday. Up front, of course, Carl Edwards won, as we mentioned. Chase Elliott, another top 5 run, top 10 run. Trevor Bayne back with Roush Fenway up to the top 5 category, which he hadn't done since Daytona, since he won the Daytona 500 back in 2011. Matt DiBenedetto, we heard from him a little bit earlier on the show, finishes in the 6th spot. Clint Boyer, a good run now since he moved over to HS Motorsports there and has a good run. A lot of guys that we haven't been seeing up front doing that, and we saw it a couple of races ago. We talked about this same thing then, and it's great to see these new faces. I don't know if you can say that it's because of the new package, because that doesn't show up as much at a track like a Bristol, but it seems like that's leveled the playing field across the board and given some of these teams a spark where they can rethink, re-engineer some things and help their teams get up front.
You know, even if we just go outside the top 10 with Ryan Blaney, a solid top 11, Greg Biffle, McMurray, those 3 drivers we haven't even talked about all year long. So for the new faces to go, you know, everybody hates the New England Patriots because they win. Everybody hates Kyle Busch and Jimmy Johnson because they win. We like to see the new faces. It's refreshing for the sport when somebody can hold on to the fact that maybe for one race or a generation, a couple of weeks coming up, we're not going to be bombarded by the same guy winning every week, week in and week out.
Right. I think it's good for the sport. Everybody likes to see somebody new, somebody different, exciting up front and contending, and that's exactly what we saw. By the way, did you see the video? Matt DiBenedetto, when he drove home, got a police escort into his neighborhood. His neighbors were out there throwing confetti, spraying him with silly string, having a big party, a block party out in the street for a 6th-place run.
It's pretty good. Not only, again, for a rookie driver, again, a lower-funded team. It's not one of the big powerhouse teams that we're used to. It is a Toyota-backed team. It was a fantastic effort. He didn't luck into it. It wasn't through, again, pocus magic on pit road. They ran up there all day long and were able to compete at the highest level for the entire race.
And don't forget, once again, Matt DiBenedetto is going to be a guest on NASCAR Live, 7 Eastern time on Tuesday night with Eli Gold, so you can hear more from him at that time. All right, let's shift things over to off-track now. What's not going quite so well in your view?
One of the things that's constantly talked about is why is attendance down at racetracks? And tracks, just like we talked about, are doing what they feel is necessary to get newer and keep our older fans going. We've lowered ticket prices. We've rearranged ticket packages for families. We've talked about catering prices being adjusted to try to get people, when you're at the track, you're not spending your entire salary on buying a hot dog. The one thing that has not been adjusted since the industry reached its peak in the early 2000s are hotel prices, and it's killing us. Race teams in a lower, smaller city are having 3- and 4-night minimums of $300 to $350 a night. And that's not just for race teams. That's for fans.
Yeah.
So as a fan, if I want to show up on a Sunday afternoon and go to the Bristol race, but I want to get there Saturday night, so I'm there Sunday morning to start tailgating, I can't do it without buying 3-night minimums. And those 3-night minimums are well over $300 a night. And we're not talking at the Ritz-Carlton. We're talking at your standard Hamptons and Holiday Inns. If the Chamber of Commerce can control the weather, like we always give them credit for, Chamber of Commerce weather, they need to get a hold of the hotel rooms and simply ask to be adjusting the prices so a regular family can show up for 1 night or less, 2 nights or less, and be able to afford it. They can't do it at $300, $50 night minimums for 3 nights.
Yeah, I agree. I saw a tweet from Mike Joy from the Fox side. He said that they got charged $330 a night for their rooms. And you
Three-night minimum.
You mentioned the minimums along the way. What about say for example, a truck team, a lower budget truck team who's trying to just get in and out for one night? They can't do that. They've got to stay way far away and spend that kind of money. You want to talk about saving. And I know that there are some tracks who have worked with some of their local hotel groups, and that's admirable to try and get those rates down a little bit. But man, they're outrageous at a lot of places.
There are a lot of empty hotel rooms that would be covered if they could simply lower the price. We have race teams specifically in Bristol that are driving well over an hour away from the track to try to avoid these escalated prices that we've seen.
I don't like to do this, but I'm going to have to agree with you on that one.
Mark it down.
It pains me.
Mark it down.
I have to. I have to agree with him. He's right about that one. The hotel room thing is out of control. All right, for my off track, this is something a little bit on the technical side. We got a picture we can show you. We've seen now that NASCAR has relaxed their penalties on the lug nut tightening. You used to have to get all 5 on, or they'd bring you back down pit road to make you tighten them. Now these teams are going with 4, getting 4 lug nuts tightened, and we've seen a slew of loose wheels this year, ruining good runs for guys who feel the wheels start to wobble like on a grocery store cart, have to come back down pit road to get that thing tightened up. The penalty is NASCAR's not enforcing it themselves anymore. The penalty, they say, is the team is going to have to come back and make that pit stop, or they're going to have the wheel come off and have a wreck and tear up a good race car, which I understand. But what is the issue here? Are we just going too fast, trying to get that extra millisecond to get off pit road?
We've saved. We are one of the larger teams that are going with 4 stops. By the way, at Bristol,
for
lug nuts.
Yeah.
At Bristol, we chose to do 5, as well as the 21 car went 5. Our teammate went 4. They had a loose wheel issue. The time difference that you can save is almost a second by alleviating having to take off 5
on each wheel.
It's a second total on the pit stops.
Right.
Yep. So you're gaining a quarter second by each lug nut. So that's 1 off, 1 on. That's a half a second. Around the other side, 1 off, 1 on. It's another half a second. We're gaining almost a second during our pit stops. The reason NASCAR is not too worried about it is they have a pretty severe penalty in place if one of those wheels come off. Okay, if a wheel actually comes off the car
while it's on the track,
on the track, and it's concluded that it was done because of loose lug nuts, the tire changer gets penalized. And I don't know the exact punishment, but it's for weeks. He gets removed from activity. So he's going to be very conscious of how tight his wheels are. Now, the issue of being loose, we see a lot of those loose wheels, and NASCAR is not going to say much about it because it is self-policing.
Right.
You penalize yourself, like speeding on pit road, your wheels are loose, I have to come back down. So, again, we talk about this being a team sport.
Yeah.
There's nothing more team-oriented than a pit stop when you have those 7 guys jumping over the wall, changing their stuff in 4 tires and full of cans of gas in under 11 seconds now. They're doing stops in under 11 seconds. And one of those things has not only one of those things that contributes to that is only doing a 4 lug nut stop for each wheel. All
right, and it's something we're seeing over and over and over again with the loose wheels. All right, let's shift gears now and take some of your questions on our fan forum hotline. It's 844-4ASK-MRN. We got a couple of questions this week. Let's go to number 12 first, who wants to know something about a little bit different idea for racing.
I was just wondering, with all the talk about reforming the format of the All-Star race, what would it take to get like a Grand Prix style race through the streets of downtown Charlotte, North Carolina? And money is not an issue in this hypothetical situation.
Yeah, the interesting thing about that would be simply the first thing that comes to mind is we're still talking about 3,400-pound race cars trying to race through the streets, would be tearing the streets up the amount of time we hit the cars. But
they tear racetracks up now that are built for it.
Exactly right. But the biggest issue that comes right to mind is the fact that we'd have to install safer barriers everywhere we go. We really are not racing on any of these tracks in a NASCAR-style car, whether it's the truck, Xfinity, or the sprint car, without the use of safer barriers. We can't allow that. The time frame to be able to build up a track and tear it down, it wouldn't be practical.
I know he said cost is not an issue, but, man, it really is going to be an issue for somebody to try to do that. It would be cool. I'd love to see it.
Well, even if cost was an issue, you're talking about time. It would take a long time.
And you've got to shut the whole city down while you do it.
Yeah, so the time frame would be the most prohibitive thing, I believe. The racing would be questionable at best. We have no banking in one of these road courses unless they put them on the HOV lane of the interstates.
Yeah.
But to keep them flat on the road, these cars just really aren't made for that. We see even our road courses, we see some banking in the streets of North Carolina, and Charlotte specifically don't have any of that.
All right, and they've got to give them a little bit of a leeway there as well. We see it in IndyCar, we see it in the sports car world, but those are lighter, quicker cars, more nimble cars than we see on the Sprint Cup side. All right, we've got another question now about the number of cars in races.
I was just wondering why, if last year and I don't know how many years before this, we had 43 cars in the field. Now it seems like since the charter system is in place, the Sprint Cup Series only has 40 or less. Just wondering what causes that and what the reason is for it.
Yeah, so the charters were given to a NASCAR team for value. As a team went out of business, they had no equity. Now a charter team has an equity of guaranteed races in the show. What they did was they issued 36 charters and then 4 open spots to anybody that wanted to come. If you have 80 cars show up, 40 are going to make the race, 36 are chartered teams, and that adds a value that's an equitable amount to a team that they didn't have
Similar
until this
to
year.
if like an NBA or Major League Baseball team wanted to sell their franchise, they could to somebody else. Race
Exactly.
teams, when they had trouble, the only thing they had was a building and some equipment that people would get at fire sale prices.
Exactly right. So now with a charter, the team has a value that they didn't have before that allows even newer teams or older teams that have been around to say, I have a charter. I have a medallion, as they're called in the NASCAR series.
All right, we got to take another quick break here on Motorsports Monday. We'll let you hear from the owner of BK Racing after their strong run and look ahead to Richmond right after this.
Oh, my God, big day. We love Bristol. We love Bristol, and from ZZ Top to top 10, there he is. You know, we're so proud of Matt, and this team works so hard, both teams. The 23s, it's like one family of team. And I tell you, that's the big change this year is these guys are working together, and they're just trying to make it happen. And then, you know, Matt drove so hard today. He's worn out. Look at him, he's over here interviewing him. He's shaking while they're doing it, like we all are. I feel like we won the championship. Well, we did a couple of things. You know, we bought the Walter fleet, and we also bought the chassis shop to be able to build and work that. We've gotten closer with Toyota. We love our Toyota relationship. These guys have been great. I've had dinner with David Wilson a number of times this year. He said, hey, we want to be good partners. We want to be a better partner, and you see that happening. And I think we've done some personnel changes, and we've brought some people in, and I also think we're starting to mature a little bit with a routine. And we're starting to get out in front of it, so we're not just putting the cars together and getting to the track. We're out there earlier, and I think you'll see stuff like that paying off for us.
This is MRN Motorsports Monday.
Housby Second Generation is your source for refurbishment of your existing trucks. We specialize in the reconditioning of vocational type trucks, ready-mix trucks, dump trucks, and waste trucks. Extend the life of your current trucks today and give yourself a viable option to purchasing new units, especially in your lower volume markets. At Housby Second Generation, we perform as much or as little work you require. For more information, visit housby.com.
Don't miss the first ever Country 500, the Great American Music Fest at Daytona International Speedway, Memorial Day weekend. Join Luke Bryan, Jason Aldean, Kid Rock, Lady Antebellum, Florida Georgia Line, Willie Nelson, and many more for 3 awesome days and nights of music, camping, and more on the infield of the World Center of Racing. Visit country500.com for more information.
In the Outback, we think the best part about racing is the noise, the engine, the pits, and a Kevin Harvick top 10 finish. Especially a Kevin Harvick top 10 finish. That's because if Kevin Happy Harvick, driver of the number 4 Chevrolet, places in the top 10 in today's race, there's free bloomin' onions this Monday. So you'll have a happy bloomin' Monday. Only at Outback Steakhouse. Valid with any purchase. 1 per table. Participation may vary. Registered trademarks used with permission.
Hey, I'm Mike Bagley. Now back to Joey Meyer and Woody Kane on Motorsports Monday.
All of us here at Motorsports Monday and Motor Racing Network want to send our best wishes, thoughts, and prayers on to Mike Bagley on the recent passing of his mom, Inez. So look to have him back in the fold very soon. Our understanding is he's going to be at Richmond with us this weekend as well. Hey, folks, real quick, we want to ask for your help and in exchange give you a chance to win your own Google Chromecast. In an effort to give you the kind of web programming you want, we're asking if you'll take a quick online survey at mylistenerstudy.com. The survey is completely anonymous, and it'll help us give you more of what you like. like. Don't forget to enter for that Google Chromecast. Again, that's mylistenerstudy.com. We really appreciate your feedback, and good luck. Okay, Joey, Richmond. We're headed to another short track, but a completely different animal.
Completely different animal. It's definitely on my bucket list. When somebody says go one of the tracks you want to go to, it's Richmond International Raceway. We just came back from the other track that I always talk about being an event at Bristol. Richmond puts on the kind of racing that anybody that's been to a race track in their life on Saturday night at their local town puts on at Richmond, whether it's the Xfinity Series or the Cup Series, 2, 3, 4 wide. Corners, the cars are very wide. The track's very wide for the cars. Puts on a great show. I love Richmond.
Going to day racing there now on the Cup side for all the races there. How much will that change things?
The track's going to take a little bit more rubber in the heat, just like we saw Bristol do. It tends to make guys slide around a little bit more and change their lines. It's crew chief's worst nightmares when that track changes when it takes rubber.
All right. Want to thank Scott Graves, the crew chief for Daniel Suarez and the Xfinity side, for joining us on the program. Outback Hercules Tire as well. Go to Outback. Get those lunch specials on the Joey menu. Thank Veronica for the hat here on the Motor Racing Network, and all of you for giving us those Twitter questions along the way. He's Joey. I'm Woody. We'll see you right back here next week for another edition of Motorsports Monday.
You've been listening to MRN Motorsports Monday, presented by Outback Steakhouse. Tune in again next Monday at noon Eastern for all the latest news, results, and interviews from NASCAR on MotorRacingNetwork.com. Brought to you by Hercules Tires. MRN Motorsports Monday is also available on demand at the MotorRacingNetwork.com Media Center. Or you can download it from iTunes or Stitcher. MRN Motorsports Monday is a production of the Motor Racing Network. All rights reserved.